Hello, and welcome back to The Opposite of Stuck. I'm your co-host, Vicky,
And I'm your co host, Sarah.
and we have another amazing episode for you guys today. We want to talk about feeling stuck around waiting for other people to change. And of course, as always, inspired by in real life experiences for Sarah and I. So, just to kick us off, um, I don't know. I guess to start, I would say I never felt like I fit in. And that sort of has been in the background of my entire life, probably. But in the last couple of years, I have really found like my people, Sarah included, obviously, is at the top of the list. And I think that especially as we grow and evolve and like meet new people and meet the people where we feel like we can be ourselves fully, it then makes the relationships where that isn't true more obvious, right? And so in the last few years, it has become obvious the places, the spaces, and the people for which I've been performing. And we talked about this in our episode a bit on people pleasing. But it's really been a journey for me on that. And I don't know if part of that is the fact that I'm a four line as well, but the people that I spend my time with matter to me. And I think the biggest place that I've struggled around this is with family. And I think that it's so funny because people say you can't choose your family, right? But as Sarah and I were just talking about before we hit record, like we actually do choose our family and our souls come here with a very specific mother and father, or even if you're adopted, adoptive parents, or whatever that ends up looking like for you. Literally, the people in our lives come here as a part of our journey. And or we come here with those people as a part of our journey. And I think that it took me a really long time to see that. And like I was telling Sarah before we hit record here, the first thing that shifted that was when I was doing a class on rapid resolution therapy. And I first heard the quote, actually, I think it was from Andrea Crowder, like that we are the problem, but that's good news because we're also the solution. And that really was the first shift for me in like, oh, maybe I do have more power than I think on the people around me. And I think that it's one of the hardest things because I've spent so many years blaming the circumstances or blaming the spaces or blaming the people or, well, this is my family. I can't do anything about it. And in the last couple of years, I've really shifted that and I've been able to look within and say, like, actually, what if it is on me? What if I'm the common denominator? What if these people are showing up because of how I'm showing up? And I sort of had a full circle moment this last weekend. I flew home for my uncle's funeral and drove to Ohio and spent probably the most amount of time I've spent with my mom and brother that I have in years, like since I've lived in Chicago, right? So let's say at least 7 years. And it just, it was such a freeing weekend. Like I felt for the first time in my life, because even 7 years ago, I was a different person and I still was blaming everybody else for everything that was in my life, as referenced in my article from a couple weeks ago. But I was able to just be me and I was able to let other people be them. And I was able to not have their actions, their behaviors, their words mean anything about me and shift how I showed up. Like I was just able to come from that wholeness that we talk about here, that authenticity of who I am and who I came here to be. And like I was telling Sarah, it was like this full circle moment. Like I've been blaming other people and like I said, especially my family, because I think it's hardest to show up with the people that we love and the people who've known us, especially if you're growing and you're evolving and you feel like you're not the same person, and will these people get it? And they're the one, there's a reason like we fight more with our families, because it's easier to just like be triggered by the people closest to us. And it's almost easier, especially if you've been on this journey of awakening, or you're awake, like soul awakening, whatever you want to call it. It's easier to be yourself with strangers, right? If you're traveling or in a new place or with people you've never met, it's easy to show up fully as yourself, because you don't feel like someone's going to judge you because they didn't know who you were a year ago or 5 years ago or 10 years ago. But for me specifically, it's been a journey of like trying to evolve, but also still fit in with my family. I know that's not like the right word I want to use, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. And it just felt like this full circle moment. And I just feel, I was like, I think we have to share this today, because for so long I have been saying, oh, my brother's just like that, or my mom's just like that, or I can't talk about my business, or I can't talk about who I am now, or I can't share human design, or I can't share breathwork, or they don't care, and telling myself things that weren't even true. I just like thought they were true, or it was a reflection of where I was and what I was able to hold and how much of myself I was able to show up as in that moment. And so I really just wanted to kick this off, because it's just a reminder that it is up to us. And it is like, it's only us and the creator. It's only us that matters. And like, these people are showing up as a reflection of you, or as in response to who you're being. And like, the power is with us. And like, I said to Sarah, like, oh, so it was only up to me this whole time. Like, joke's on me.
Yeah. I think that that's part of the, illusion and plan. You were telling a story earlier before we hit record, which, we should just automatically like hit record, but with the, this other breathwork coach who you had followed, and how your beliefs just kind of didn't line up, that his belief, and again, it's not wrong, it's just different. But when you really start to look at it, you have to ask, the question I always ask myself is like, is this helpful? Is this helpful to my long-term growth and evolution, or is it something that is keeping me stuck in blame, in victimhood, all of those things? And the difference was that he was saying it's them, not you, right? And like Vicky said, through Kabbalah and through other modalities and like gene keys and things like that, the path and the work that we have been doing, I always think that it is more empowering to have the mindset of, it's like Vicky said, if I'm the problem, then I'm also the solution. I have the power to change this. I don't have to try to control and manipulate someone else. It's impossible, really. Like I truly do feel like it is impossible to make someone else change and have them act in the way that you would want them to act. Because at the end of the day, if you're doing that, what you're really doing, or what you're really saying, and the frequency that you're putting out there, is that I want you to act and behave in a way that's comfortable for me. Right. And so, and what's healing about that? Like, where's the growth in that? If you're always trying to get people to act in a certain way that is comfortable and pleasing to you, then I don't know, like that. I feel like there's some hard questions that need to be asked in that scenario. But I told you before you went on your trip back home that it was going to be very healing. It was going to be a healing trip, right? And that's exactly what it was for you. And I'm just so happy and excited that is what transpired. And if you want to talk a little bit about the mindset work and like the things that you did, because I know you had mentioned before we started recording some moments where you were able to just like observe and not react. I'm curious if you could share some of those preparation, if you want to call it, like, mindset preparation, or just like when you chose to pause and how that helped, and how it not only helped the whole situation and like the dynamic, but how it really helped you to come back into your authenticity. Yeah. So just let's talk about that for a minute.
Where to begin? Okay. So first of all, because I don't like giving prescriptions of what I've done to other people. So I'll first of all say that this full circle moment I'm talking about, like, has been a journey of, I don't know, 10 years or my whole life, 42
yeah, it's your
years.
whole life. It's a whole life journey.
But I think that it's funny. The first thing that came to mind in the background too was breath work, because, and we've talked about this before, and I wrote this in my morning pages the other day, because again, we don't do breath work to get better at breath work. We do breath work to get better at life. And like we've said before on the podcast, this is one of the things that Sarah and I have in common. Like I wrote in my Substack the other day, like, breath work saved my life. Like, I can say that line without hesitation. But at the same time, breath work didn't heal me. I healed myself using breath work. But the reason that it came to mind in this instance is because, similar to like why people do saunas or ice baths or whatever other modality, insert here your favorite thing, it allows us to, in a safe way within our own body, create stress in the body, right? When you're breathing, when you're doing our triactive breath, like, you're technically like in a fight or flight mode, right? But we create safety first. We do this breath to create space between stress and safety, and then come back into the body, all like, again, knowing throughout the whole thing that you're safe, you're in control, like your foot is on the gas pedal and the brake pedal if you need it, right? And so that breath work over time allows you to, it's like a rubber band, right? Every time you stretch it, it keeps a bit of that, right? And so I think that in the background, I've now been doing breath work for, I don't know, 6 or 7 years. And that's definitely, again, getting me back to myself, getting me to a place where I can be in slightly more stressful situations in real life and still be in that, I can pause here, I can breathe here, I'm in control here, right? As opposed to being under stress and going into fight or flight, or reacting, or screaming at someone else, or not being able to handle it and having a panic attack or anxiety attack or whatever it is. So that's definitely a massive part of, because even years ago when I started breath work and I thought everything that was showing up was everyone else's fault, I was getting better at dealing with it, even though I wasn't taking responsibility for actually changing it. And
Yeah.
again, this is why this is the opposite of stuck, because we're not just sitting here in the same place, like healing and blaming other people. Like we're shifting, we're taking the power, we're taking the responsibility.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to say that as kind of like the baseline background. And again, if breathwork's not your thing, that's great. If you're willing to try it, you're in the right place. Because our breathworks are amazing and go along with each of these topics. But the big things I think is just, I would say the biggest thing is allowing myself to be present, which because of breathwork, I could be, right? Because before I was, again, controlling, like, oh, my mom's like this, or my brother's doing that, or he's not texting me back, or she doesn't care about me, or whatever cycles and patterns or like triggers or thoughts were going on in the background. I think that, again, like we say, like we don't have to go seeking, we don't have to go searching, we don't have to go controlling or forcing. Like life is literally presenting us with what we need. We just have to pay attention. And so I think, again, partially because of breath work, I was able to be in the present moment. And I know that at the same time, right, I was learning my human design. I'm a generator with the sacral and like authority. I'm meant to be in the present moment. That's the only place I can access that. So literally, if I'm like worried about the past or blaming my family or stressed, I have no access to my body. I have no access to that. And so of course then I'm going to stay stuck in the mind and blame my family and not show up because I can't show up when I'm in the past. And I think that, I don't know, there were probably like 1,200 other things, but I think one of the biggest shifts started when we contemplated the Venus sequence, for sure. And if you haven't heard of the Gene Keys, go look up Richard Rudd and go check him out on YouTube. But if you have, the Venus sequence is all about relationships and all relationships in your life. Basically, it's moving through your gifts and designs in a way that allow you to keep your heart open throughout life, right? So when you get in a fight, or when you have a breakup, or when you're not getting along with family, or when you're blaming whatever, it's coming back to the highest expression of who you came here to be, and keeping your heart open and letting the life happen through you, right? And that really, I think, was one of the big shifts for me in realizing I have more control. Not control is the wrong word. I have more power than I gave myself credit for, because I was trying to have plenty of control. And just, yeah, like really, I mean, I feel like that was sort of the start of where this podcast came from. Because so Sarah and I contemplated the Gene Keys, and with each of the spheres in the sequence, we did a breath work for each other. And I still think in 7 years of breathwork, those were like some of the most powerful breathworks I've ever done, because it was literally like helping us decondition and get rid of any walls of protection that we had put up because of what happened to us in life. And again, open our heart, keep our heart open, and knowing everything is showing up. And then of course, the last piece is Kabbalah, which we keep bringing up on this podcast, but it's just, I said to someone the other week, I think Kabbalah was like a language that my soul knew that I couldn't put words to. And when I hear people sharing the wisdom of Kabbalah, it's not a learning, it's a remembering for sure. Like it's things I felt but couldn't say. And that's why I think it's been so healing for me, because when I hear it, I'm like, oh, I've known that. Like, and it's just this reminder and permission slip. And again, it's like they teach like that everything in your life is there for a reason. Like our souls chose our parents, everyone in our life who shows up, like they're in our movie for a reason. And it's up to us to decide to like realize that reason, to move with life, and to get the lesson or the gold that's there for us through this person. And sometimes, like, the creator can take someone who you love and make them, they might seem like mean, or it might seem like, where is this coming from, right? And it's just that, again, the universe creator is trying to get your attention, and the best way to do that is through people. I can tell you that firsthand.
Yeah.
And just all of these things coming together, I think, just allowed me to realize, like, I was standing in my own way. Like, I'm making all these excuses and blaming all these other people. But, like, at some point I had to look in the mirror and say, like, but I'm still here. Like you said, is this useful? Like, if I'm still in the same position and I'm like looking at these other people talking about toxic parents or toxic families or whatever, and like 5 years later they're in the same place, like, is that where I want to be? Is that what I want for my life? And I think that it's just available for us to decide that, yes, our soul chose this. Yes, it might be uncomfortable. It might be really uncomfortable. It might not look pretty. It might be messy. It might be really hard to say, I created this. But that's what we're here for. Like, there's no growth without hard, like said the Scorpio. So,
right. Yeah, at some point you have to ask yourself, like, if these same stories, if these same people, the same scenario keeps showing up, you have to be able to get curious about that and ask yourself, what is the lesson in here for me? And, like, to take your situation, and to go back to what you said at the very beginning of the podcast, like, I never fit in. That right there, getting curious about that, you could have very easily kept going on the path of, like, blame and victimhood and all of that. But like you said, what's really shifted is you got curious about that, and the stories that were replaying in your head, like, start to question those and start to dissect them in a way. It's like, okay, well, if I'm feeling like I don't fit in with my family and they don't get me, then where am I not getting myself? Where am I not honoring who I truly am? Right? Which I think was, like, a big lesson for you and a huge breakthrough that you've had, like, end of last year in more embodiment this year, is, like, really owning who you are and really letting that shine, and not worrying about what other people think, or if they reject you, or if they think you're crazy, or like anything like that. And this weekend, or couple days for you, is such proof of that happening, like, in real time, like, really showing up as you, and not caring what anyone else thought or said, or how they reacted. You were committed to showing up authentically. So then a new story got to be written, right? It wasn't the same old, like, you didn't hold back and not share about your life right now and the things that you're doing and the things that you value, right? You showed up, you shared that authentically, and then it was mirrored back to you by your family, that they were interested in these things. Like, they were curious, they were asking questions, and that is what is available to each and every one of us when we stop with the bullshit in our minds and the stories that are so easy to tell, right? It's so easy to just go with that, right? Like, oh, this person always thinks this about me and blah, 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 whatever it is. But when you start to shift those stories, especially inside of your own mind, the external world has no choice but to follow that and to mirror it back to you. It really doesn't. So
Yeah.
it's so amazing how that works out. And every time I witness something like that, whether it's, in your life or my own, or one of my own family members or friends, it's just more proof that it's all within us. It starts and stops here. And we do have the power. And if you don't like something that is being mirrored back to you in your life, you can change it.
Yeah. I think I used to think it had to be so complicated. And again, I think like it gets to be simple. Like if you're listening to this thinking, first of all, I don't know how you could think it's not possible because I literally am proof here
Yeah.
sitting. Like a couple of years ago, I was like, I feel like I need to limit my time with my family. And now I'm like, just had the best week being home, right? So if that's not a complete 180, let me just tell you, it's
Yeah.
possible and you can shift it. But I think to your point, like where can you look at the blaming or the excuses you're making or saying like, oh, my family's just like that, or like what are the words you're using and how are you describing the people? Like if you feel like you have toxic family or coworkers or wherever, right? Like even if a percentage of it is the work environment or the people or the groups you're in, I guarantee you the percentage that you can control is what's going to shift it, right? And maybe it results in leaving a relationship, which has also happened to me. Maybe it results in leaving an environment, right? But either way, we have the power to see that. And those answers are on the other side of you taking responsibility. And I think it's funny, what's coming back to me is like when I was dealing with all the psoriasis a few years ago, like I remember writing a post. It was like the first post I shared after like I stopped meds and all of that and things began to shift. And I wrote a post on like saying basically you get to choose how you see the storm. And I think what I'm saying in our episode today is that, first of all, you did choose whatever is in front of you. And I know that that sentence is triggering because you're like, no, I didn't want this. I didn't choose this. But like, we did. And that was, again, like in any 12-step program, like taking responsibility is the first step. And in this society and life, I know it's hard. Been there, done that, wrote the book, bought the t-shirt, whatever you want to say. But that's the first step, right? And then perspective shift and shifting and doing the opposite is the next step. And it can be a baby step at a time. Like it doesn't all shift overnight, right? Like this full circle moment for me, it was years in the making. And it's not one thing that changed it. It's not one shift. It's literally moment by moment, becoming more of myself, taking more responsibility, owning my power in the situation, being willing to ask the hard questions and being willing to take a different action and stop letting the same thoughts be there on repeat and deciding that it gets to be different in the first place.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the host was talking about how like opposites attracting, right? And how that's not true. Like energy wise and frequency wise, like opposite energies don't attract. So for example, if there's someone in your life that, let's say, you are frustrated by and triggered by because they're lying, let's say that they're not truthful, right? If that activates you, then the work then for you is to ask yourself, where are you not being honest? And it might not be in the same way. Like you might be honest with other people, but maybe you're not being honest with yourself, right? Maybe you are, holding back and not being fully honest and showing up authentically in like who you are, right? So it's not always as like cut and dry as like this person is lying about something and that triggers me and that activates me, but it doesn't necessarily mean that like you do that same thing. It's about really looking at like the whole picture of like completely where are you showing up and not being fully truthful in every aspect of your life, not just like if it's happening at work, like, well, I don't do that at work, but maybe you do it at home, maybe you do it with your partner, maybe you do it with your kids, right? So it's you have to be patient with yourself, and that's why I say like we just have to get curious, and journaling is always super helpful. I feel like for that, because when you're trying to like think about all this stuff in your head, it can get really jumbled up. But when you start to actually write it down and writing out like, okay, this person frustrates me because of this. So where is that showing up in my life? And if you can't see it right away, that's fine. This is a process, and sometimes, especially if you're new and you're getting curious about these types of things, like it's not going to come immediately. I've had several times where I've written out, okay, like show me where this is showing up in my life, where this is affecting me. It kind of takes a couple of days sometimes to really, for you to see it, because your ego doesn't want you to see it. Right? That's the whole point, is that because when you see it, you can't unsee it. Once you see it, you are most likely going to be moved to create some sort of change. And that's not what the ego wants. So when you get curious about these things, and especially when it comes to other people and relationships and things like that, family, etc., you have to give yourself time and space. And that's why breath work is so helpful, because it does create that space. Even if you just pause when you're in, like maybe you're like with that other person and you can feel yourself becoming triggered, just be like, just pause, just breathe, just be like, inhale, exhale, okay, and move forward, right? But I think that when you start to take those action steps and ask those questions and get curious, you will be shown, and that's how you bring yourself out of the loop. That's how you get out of the blame game, out of the victimhood. Because then once you see it, you can do something about it. You can take the necessary action steps in order to shift that within you, which then automatically will shift it externally through the other people in your life. But you cannot be so naive to think that if something is in your life, if a person is in your life acting a certain way and that triggers you, you can't be so naive to think that there isn't some part of your energy that attracted them. Because if it wouldn't be in your life and in your movie if there wasn't. So opposites, like they don't attract. Like it's, you attract the level and the frequency of what you are on and what you are needing to shift.
Yeah. And by the way, it's a good thing because again, that's showing,
Yeah.
that's giving you the opportunity. Like that
Yeah.
pain in your life is the opportunity to shift that exact thing. And
Yeah,
it's
it's
just up
all
to
just
you.
information. It's just information that you're getting. If you can just take a step back and realize that it, you know, it's from the light, it's from the creator. It's giving you this opportunity, just like you had the opportunity this weekend. This weekend would have gone completely different if you would have shown up with the same judgments and fear and lack. It would not have, you know, panned out with you sharing about like human design with your family and talking so openly about the things that you value and believe in. I know that in my heart. And so yeah, I think if you are stuck in a situation where you're trying to change someone and you have the mindset everything would be better if they just did XYZ, or you know, if they changed this, take some responsibility and start to ask yourself those questions and get curious. Be gentle with yourself and compassionate, and know that the power is within you and you have the capacity to change whatever it is in your life that is not to your liking.
Yes. If I can do it, you can do it.
There you go. And we'll be in the community and the chats and, you know, reading, you know, you can read our Substack posts, you can reach out. You know, we're here, we're supporting each other in all of this, because this is the work right now. This is what we are all being asked to do. So take advantage of that and check out the companion breath work for this episode.
Thank you guys so much. We love you. And thanks for being here.
See you in the next episode.